Thank you for your patience. I'm live. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Coffee with Carrie. These are the videos you need post this NAR settlement. How you doing? How you feeling? Are you okay? Are you living? How are we doing? Some of you, your MLSs have already taken compensation out of the multiple listing service, right? Ours is happening on a Saturday. I could say who does that, documents are being updated tomorrow, Saturday. And I think I was told my association is actually going to do it this afternoon. So for those of you that are in my market, Illinois, in the Illinois market, we our license law changed. We've always had designated agency. So you've always had to explain agency and give it to the buyer, whether they wanted to sign it or not. Now they have to have a contract with you. So for those of you that are just joining me, this is Coffee with Carrie. Let me know, where are you watching from? Tell us in the feed, share this with a friend. Let's get everybody in the room. Yeah, good morning. Glad I was already in compliance. Yeah, that we are, we were in, there are agents even in my market where, we always had to explain agency. We had to give you designated agency, or we had to give you the consumer's guide to agency and sign and date when we explained agency. Some of you just signed it and gave it to the client. But now you need to sit down and have a whole conversation. If you have not taken the accredited buyer rep class, the National Association of Realtors is offering it complimentary, and you get a year of the ABR complimentary in your marketplace, any marketplace. I'm teaching it a few times here in Illinois, next week twice, then again a few times in September, and on 2 Saturdays in a row. So September 21st and 28th. For those of you that like to come see me on a Saturday, 2 Saturdays in a row. I don't know if the link is available yet. So again, click that airplane. Let's get some folks in the room here. Who do I want to invite? Why not? Let's invite my kids. Let's wake some people up. All of that. Come on in. Come in. Join me. Yeah, I might as well tell my kids, tell some realtors, some real estate agents. How do you identify? Realtor, real estate agent, broker? You tell me. The goal of today's talk is soon to be licensed realtor here in Utah, originally from Chicago. Congratulations, my friend Michelle. Good for you. So 7 essential videos post the NAR settlement. Again, I'm not here to talk to you about the settlement. However, let me just give some of you some tips before we get into it, whether you're watching me live on Instagram. I'm also live on YouTube. Some of you need to go to competition.realtor and save the section. It's like a one-pager if you really printed it out, for buyers and for sellers. You should read it, because those 2 pages tell the buyer and the seller that they can negotiate. So negotiate, and of which, they always could, but I just think maybe some of us just didn't do that well. So 7 essential videos, post the NAR settlement. Yeah, I'm getting everybody in the room. If you do have questions, throw them in, in the Q&A at the bottom of the screen. If you do have questions over on YouTube, just, type them down in the feed. Let's do this. So August 17th, people keep calling it D-Day. Why do we call it D-Day? Can't we just call it take out the MLS compensation day? I actually, I went to my MLS, and this morning, I've been up since 5 a.m. I recorded a video for our MLS. I won the award, Sarah. Today's the day, DTM. I won the award for doing too much. And I'm recording again today and tomorrow, because we updated all of our videos so compensation doesn't show up. So we, just because it can't be there anyway. So I've been up early, and I went to my MLS, and we could never search by compensation anyway. So I went to my MLS and I downloaded listing sheets that will be old listing sheets from, I think, Hinsdale, West Chicago, Broadview, maybe Naperville. And then I pulled a 1-line summary, only because I wanted to see if compensation was what the news is saying. Anyone watch the news? It's not. And then I wanted to see if anyone was where the seller wasn't paying, and there were. So I wanted to have that so I could have a conversation with future homeowners or future sellers so I can talk to them about the changes over time. And I did that because you're officially caught up, Sarah, right? I'm Sunday, I'll be officially caught up. You know, I'm being audited, so that changes your life. So I printed all of this out and I did this one line summary and I showed compensation and I have another column for mortgages. Like what was the loan or was it cash? Because I want to have a conversation around different marketplaces, even though this is going to change. And when I say change, you're going to have buyers that make different decisions. So let's get into this. Get your pen, get your paper. I'll have a blog post. I'll have a list. This will be on the blog if you want to copy, cut, and paste later. Maybe not today, but eventually, because I got to go share another post. I actually interviewed Sheena Baker on, making the buyer's conversation an experience, or not just providing value, but an experience. And so that posted on my podcast Tuesday, but I'm going to put that blog post up first. So August 17th, are you ready? Tomorrow, aka D-Day. I like to call it the opportunity day, like the opportunity for you to call everyone change the narrative. The news has been calling. We've been interviewed on the news. Some of us have been interviewed on the news in the newspaper. Baird Warner was just interviewed on the news. Exit Realty was interviewed on the news. And then, the newscasters changed the narrative. And if I were to open up I don't even know if I have it here, but I think I've remembered. The newscaster said, I put it in my story. The newscaster said, home prices are going to come down. I was like, show me. And then the newscaster said that, so home prices will come down. It will be, I want to go look, but I can't do it on let's see if I have the image on here it is. I have it. Lower home prices, that consumers are going to want to go find their own home without you. And then the other one is that there will be fewer real estate agents in our market. In Illinois, almost every real estate agent signed back up with the association. They didn't even get rid of their licenses. If they didn't sign up, they put their licenses in holding. So the way the narrative was changed in this news segment, because I called one of the people. I'm like, did you say it? Is that all you said? He was like, no, Carrie. I'm like, okay. And then I talked to someone else and found out that, yeah, there was so many other things that were said. So when the newscaster said that you need to go find your own house, or you should, I was like, oh, please, all of you, this is why we're talking about these videos. You need to be the person having a conversation around real estate. Now, again, don't violate antitrust and think before you speak. So I like to call it the opportunity day for real estate agents. Go back to the basics of going over the entire process, of which, if you're here with me today, you've always done that, right? Right. Oh, I need to fix my eyebrows. So if you were the agent that hopped into your car to show homes without a process, this might feel hard to you. And if you're the agent that just gave the consumer's guide to agency, you didn't really go over agency, or they went to your website, signed up, and then you met them at the property, don't do that. This will be hard for you. Yesterday, we did a Let's Talk event with a loan officer and an attorney. And I could tell that some part of the room was stressed out about the fact that compensation was being taken out because our MLS was in agreement to pay. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to be that hard. I really don't, especially for those of you that explained agency and you used a buyer agency agreement. In Florida, even though they're transactional, we can have a transactional document, a showing document, not in Illinois, and we can have exclusive agency. So I just think, sit down with your clients and explain to them how you get paid. You paid the doctor. First of all, you go to the doctor, and some of you don't even read those documents. So now this is the time where buyers must beware. Don't go this alone. Once upon a time, every agent helped the seller. If you go back and Google, what is the history about compensation? We had sub-agency, which means if a seller listed the house and I took out one of you, like Stephanie or Steph, if I came out and I took you out, I represented the seller, even though I was helping you buy the house. So we had sub agency and I got paid by the seller. And so it used to be thought that if the seller was paying the buyer agent, that they should be working on my behalf. Then that changed in the 90s in Illinois. We no longer had sub agency. And so even though compensation came out of the proceeds to my brokerage, I exclusively represented that buyer. And you almost feel like this is how it should be. It seems simple because there are some unintended consequences. So even if you had a buyer, the buyer's agent would help the seller get the best deal, right? So go Google the history on this. You will want your own agent. You will, right? So how many of you have buyers and you think the buyers are going to go straight to the listing agent? Because I'm going to talk about that, could be one of the videos. It's okay to sign an agreement to pay your agent. It is okay. And I've had people say, well, Carrie, I have buyers that are like, how do I cancel? What if I don't like you? Have the conversation around why you're going to do the best job. If things don't work out, the agreements say that, both parties can agree to cancel. First of all, if you have a buyer that doesn't want to work with you, why wouldn't you let them out of the agreement? It didn't work out. Somebody else, move on. And I said this, if you have a buyer that says, well, I don't want to sign an agreement. When is the last time you went to the doctor? So I went to the doctor not too long ago. And what did I go for? Oh, mammogram. And I get there, she hands me an iPad. I'm like, this is new. So I'm signing everything on the iPad. I'm kind of skimming, like seeing if there's anything I should be concerned about. But then I get to the part of when I go to see the doctor and I'm reading it, that I'm agreeing to pay if my insurance doesn't pay. How many of you actually read that? You're not going back there unless you update these documents, right? How many of you go to get your car repaired and you don't sign anything? Oh, you're signing. This is one of the largest purchases someone will ever make. Why wouldn't they want an agreement that says what you are supposed to do for them? And why wouldn't they want an agreement to have transparency around how much money you get paid? I'm right? So if you are stuck, you need to call your entire database in the next week to tell them that I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with this for you, but let me just talk to you about the changes. So go to competition.realtor, click where it says for buyers and sellers, print out, old school printout for buyers, print out the one for sellers and read it. Then call your clients and talk to them about that. So here are the 7 videos. I have more. Here are the 7 videos I think all of you need. These could be in shorts. They could be in reels for Facebook or Instagram. They could also be for your business pages on Facebook, for groups. This could also be for TikTok. This could be for Snapchat. This could be for Threads. This could be for X, Twitter, you name it. This could be the vertical video. Can you do the horizontal version? Absolutely. So here are the videos you need. I'm going to freak some of you out with this one. How to buy a house without a real estate agent or a realtor. For those of you that are live with me, how would you handle that narrative? What would you say? Your first video needs to be, now that we have all of these updates, let me tell you how to buy a house without me. How would you say that? And that might be a series of videos like, let me tell you how to buy a house without a real estate agent. Then you need to have the pros and cons of what happens when you buy a home without a real estate agent. That's all in your number 1. You can make that how to buy a home without a real estate agent, how to buy a house, the pros and cons about not using a real estate agent. You could actually create a long form video. I hate breakfast, and so I probably should have went and brushed my teeth because it's never mind. You're like TMI. So, and I created one, and it's going to post Saturday. I got to edit it. I created one on how to buy a house without a real estate agent. I even created one on compensation was never free. So that could be a part of your videos. Number 2, every time you watch the news, and you don't have to put the news down, you could simply say, this is what the newscaster said. This is the reality in my market. So every time you watch the news, there's a segment on real estate. I want you to tell your clients to text me or call me and ask me the reality. You could literally do the version I have. I like to call it the Brandon Horatio version. If you go follow him, he does these short 10-second or less videos and puts words on top. Go create that video of you watching the news and then say, if you hear something on the news about real estate, text me or call me or email me, and I'm going to tell you what the reality is. Tell them to tell you what it is. That's your second video. Let me make it plain. What did I say when I first started talking? I said that on Wednesday, the newscaster, NBC News, said, now, after the 17th, we're going to have lower home prices. And I went and found this. Here we go. Lower home prices. I pulled this out. It's flipped. This was 2008. This was 2008. This is 2024. So we don't have lower prices. Compensation does not impact pricing. It's not a part of the appraisal. And I had a really good debate on this. Boy, somebody was mad when I was teaching the ABR. And I'm like, why do we think that if a buyer, because he's saying that a buyer can go now find their own home and not have to pay compensation. I have so many scenarios in my head. If you go straight to the listing agent and how your compensation, how a buyer thinks that the house should be lower. No, because if I'm a seller, I want all my money. All my money. So if I'm a seller and you go directly to the seller because he's saying lower home prices, that you should go find your own home to help with the lower home prices. I'm like, if I'm looking at West Chicago, here we go. West Chicago, 2013 and 14. In West Chicago in 2013, median sales prices were $244 detached. In 2013, median sales prices for attached were $75,000. And I'm here to tell you, I remember that in my subdivision townhouses. I bought my townhouse for $130. They were selling for less. And I'm like, I'm staying here forever. Now, 2024, West Chicago, median sales prices are $445 end of June. That's almost double what they were in 2013. Then in June of 2024, median sales prices for attached is $332. I should sell, right? Inventory. You can't have lower prices until we have more inventory. So right now we're in a seller's market, and so it causes, if we're in a seller's market and buyers are still buying, the prices aren't going to come down, even if you go directly to the seller, of which I can create that video on how to buy your own home. But I can promise you that a seller wants all their money. And if you think you're going to negotiate and say, well, since I'm representing myself, I want to deduct this, the property at whatever percent or dollar amount, you be in that multiple offer and see that seller take a buyer with an agent, because they're going to take someone that can help them. And if I were to look at the inventory, again, lower prices won't happen until we have more inventory. In DuPage County, back in 2013, we had 3,000 properties on the market and 1,400 attached. And now, all in, we have only 1,000 at the end of the month in all of DuPage County. I should have pulled Cook County in Illinois. I probably should have pulled Kissimmee in Florida. Or so yeah, I'll come back to that. Let me get back to my video. So the first video, how to buy a house without a realtor. Number 2, every time you watch the news and there's a segment, create a video that says every time there's a news segment on real estate, send me a DM and I'll tell you what they mean, what the reality is. Because I can prove to you that home prices aren't going to come down until we have more homes on the market. Interest rates are still above 6%. Go Google that. Look at the current rates today. Number 3, your video is expect change. Expect to work with a buyer agency agreement, and then go talk about it, and then tell the consumer to go look at competition.realtor. Better yet, I have placed the buyer link and the seller link in the feed. It is a quick read, less than 2 minutes, and it'll tell you how we work. Really how we've always worked. Here's a script that I got from another real estate agent. Tiffany shared this with me from Ohio, and I'm going to read it to you. Here is so when you start to create these videos, and I just said, go talk about expect change. This was one of my favorites, and I'm going to read it to you. And this is a script that you could practice. You ready? We are, what are we, about 20 minutes in? And it might have come from a different agent, but we're sharing it everywhere. I should probably go, make it so you can screenshot it. Here's the script. Agent talking, so here's the script. Seller's talking to you about the NAR settlement. The agent says, how much do you want to charge for agents and consumers to see your house? And the seller says, what? Then the agent says, let's say we do an open house. We decide to charge admission to the open house. How much should we charge for people to see your house? And the seller says, well, nothing. I want people to see the house. Then the agent says, okay, good. Makes sense. They don't charge admission for people to attend auctions. And we want to create an auction effect on your house to drive the price up. Good. Now, what if we paid people to come see your house? Not the open house, come see your house. And the seller's like, what? The agent says, how many people will come to your house if we paid them to come see it? Right? I'm like, then the seller says, wow, a lot. How do we do that? Agent, before I answer that, what if we did this? We offered to pay anyone, but we only had to pay the one who bought your house. What do you think of that? Seller says, okay, that's a good idea. Agent, good, because that's what we normally do in real estate. Sellers might decline agent compensation, and with that, force buyers to pay admission to see the house. Smart sellers like you will understand the brilliance of having the agents bring their buyers with the thought of getting paid, but only have to pay the one who pays you. Ready to sell? Sign here. Tell me you like that. I feel like maybe Mark and I should role play that. That's what we'll do. Maybe I'll get someone else to role play that. Tell me you like that. Okay, let me go back. So that could be a video. And it's a great script to have with a seller, because the truth is we've done this for years. We've done this for years. So number 4, your 4th video, home buyers need their own agent. Don't think if you call the listing agent, the seller will drop the price. You want an agent that will negotiate on your behalf and take that buyer through the entire process. Because what if the buyer comes directly to me, the listing agent? I either have to do dual agency if it's legal in my state, or I have to offer notice of no agency to the buyer. So you can go create a video around that. And now if I offer notice of no agency to the buyer, what do you think happens when you offer notice of no agency to a buyer? That buyer, even though they're not represented, is going to need some help, right? So I actually think what could happen, I'm looking for, I got another example of this. So now I think that if I'm the listing agent and now I have a buyer that comes directly to me, and I'm not going to do dual agency because I want to exclusively represent my seller, I sit down with the buyer and tell them how I work. If you want to represent yourself, you can. Here's the notice of no agency. This is how agency works. Are you sure you don't want me to refer you to another agent? Nope, I'm going to do this on my own. Okay, great. Then the buyer has to call you to let them in for the inspection. You have to work with them with the appraiser. You have to now open the home for contractors. You now have to send them the disclosures. You're now writing the contract, which their agent would have done. And now they're going to ask you they're going to ask you to do a market analysis, of which you can't do because you don't represent them. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because again, there are going to be some that call you up. And here's so put in whatever percent you want. I'm going to read this to you. This was in a private group, maybe not a private Facebook group, maybe it's public, but put in whatever percent you want. Okay. There are no averages or standards, but this might be the average. Here we are. This is for real. This is why you need to go create videos around how to buy a house without a real estate agent and how to go directly to the seller and the pros and cons. Here we are. This is for real. People like to send me stuff. I took a land listing. The seller said he only wants to pay me, the brokerage, the seller's brokerage. and the buyer can pay their own agent. Okay, fine. First day on the market, someone calls up and is interested. Great. Goes on and on about how she has no agent and is unrepresented. And because she doesn't, the price should be less. There's a percent. This person signs a brokerage disclosure saying that this person is unrepresented. Notice of no agency. Then I meet this person at the property because I can still take you to the property. You're unrepresented. You're going to represent yourself. Spend an hour walking in the mud and 30 minutes writing the offer. Now this person is asking me to get soil test quotes for surveys and meet with the city about building permits and next week attend a zoning meeting. I tell her these are all things typically done by the agent that represents that person in the transaction. This person flipped out on me and said, I thought you were looking out for me and my best interest. So when the newscaster said that you might have to go find your own house, this is the unintended consequence of the average consumer not understanding that if they're unrepresented, they are unrepresented. And so truly, the public does not understand how this works. The unintended consequences and why you need to create video around the unintended consequences. You don't even have to talk compensation. You don't have to throw out a percent, although the news says you get paid a lot. I actually went to the MLS again last night or this morning, and I looked at the compensation. We weren't getting what they're saying. And here's another video. Here's the bonus video. I knew I couldn't think of it. Here's the video. And the video around compensation is when the news is talking about this is what agents got paid or this is what the seller was being charged. I want to know why news outlets don't call brokerages and ask them what their compensation is on average. And they go do their own research instead of just going live on the news and saying that we all got charged a certain percent. Or we charged a certain percent, because I can almost promise you that our compensation, if you looked at our listing agreements, they're all over. Now, again, back in the day, I was trained to get a certain rate, and it was still never what the news said. So you need to, my video would be is when you hear the news say we got this, call my brokerage. I can tell you on average what we charge, and you have the right to negotiate. I know what I'm going to do for you, and I know what I'm worth, but the news is saying this is what we got. Now that's a video. I want to know why, even when it came down to lawsuits, why aren't the attorneys calling brokerages and the boutique brokerages who are out here trying to compete for a living and maybe even cutting their profits, or maybe even companies that have new models, I almost said it, have new models where the fees are, really, really, really low. And I've seen ads on television all through the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I would pause the television so I could zoom in to see what the fine print is. Why aren't we asking those questions? Now, that's just a bonus video. So my first video is how to buy a house without a realtor. Number 2 was you create a video, stand there, put some words on top of the video and say, every time you watch the news and you hear something about real estate, tell me what they said and I'll give you the reality for your city. Number 3, go live or create a video around you wanting a professional and expect change. And what does the settlement really mean? Competition.realtor. There's one for buyers and sellers. The 4th video is home buyers need their own agent, and here's why. And I just gave you a script on why, because the average consumer does not think that the average consumer thinks that no matter what, somebody's helping them, even if they sign no agency. No, we're not helping you. And dual agency is not legal in Florida. I don't think you should do dual agency. It's just, I could easily see I need to charge more for dual agency because now my license is on the line. And I can see charging more for when I list a property and you come in without representation, now I need to charge more because I'm hopping in my car. I'm going to find things. I gotta go do things that I didn't have to do if you had your own agent. And then what I like about Main Street, Lynn Madison came up with a document for how it works when you have representation, when you don't have representation in dual agency, and what we can and cannot do. That should be a part of everybody's conversation. And if you don't have one at your association, sit down and write and go look up license law. What can you do as a dual agency agent? What can you not do as an agent if you're the listing agent with notice of no agency? What can you not do? And then what can you do if you have exclusive representation? You need to show that to everybody. So that's your number 4. Number 5, buyers have always paid compensation. You need to go create a video on, guess what? It's never been free. So for those of you that used to create videos and said, my compensation is free, no, the buyer financed the entire amount. So now if you're sitting there taking notes, write down what you think a seller full compensation was. Sell side, buy side. Write that down on a sheet of paper. Write it down. Then when you go to closing, let's look at a cash buyer. You go to closing and the cash buyer comes in with the money. I should have had some money. They put it down on the table. When they put the money on the table, man, I should have had some money. Oh, do I have money? I got some money. Can I get this even open? Oh, I'm going to break a nail. Oh, I got it open. So the seller comes to closing with all this money, right? 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. They put all this money out on the table, right? Then the money gets split up. So the buyer came with all this money to pay. The buyer then gives the money to the seller. The seller takes the money. The seller then takes of their money, whatever that amount is. Here, let me go down to the change. The seller takes their money, pays the listing brokerage. I'm gonna grab the nickels for the buyer's agent, and then pays the buyer's agent out of that money. Who just paid the compensation? Tell me you got that. Tell me if you're watching on YouTube. Tell me if you're watching. There's the video. I'm gonna go get some money. I'll use dollars. Maybe I'll use 20s and 10s and 5s. Tell me in the feed, did you get that? Who paid compensation? The seller just didn't get to take it home. Who actually paid compensation? Now it came out of the proceeds, but the buyer brought the money to the closing. I should have, at least 60 responses. Yes, Carrie, I got it. I got it. I got it. I got it. So now if you explain it this way, now let's talk about the buyer when they have a loan. They financed your compensation over 30 years. Girl, dude, man, y'all, period. Let me go create this video. That's the video. Start with that video. Start with that video this weekend. Everybody, go get your basic singles out. Let's not make people think we're over here balling, because people think we're all, balling out here. Go use regular cents and then say, okay, so I'm buying your house. Here you go. And now you got 2 agents over here. And then, you should just split it up then. Say, my brokerage got some, I got some, her brokerage got some, and then she got some. The buyer paid it. That is your 5th video, but I might start with that one today and then tomorrow. Send it to me when you do it. Let's see who can come up with the best one. Facts. Let's see who can come up with the best video. I need some more money. I only got coins in here. So now number 6. And this is going to be hard for some of you. And even our exclusive agency says we're going to do this. Exclusive buyer agency agreement. Your number 6 is you don't need your agent to call every listing agent to get the compensation. You don't need me to do that. And let me tell you why. Publicly, we know, because there was an article done by Inman and Riz Media and a few other news outlets, that EXP has changed their documents and they are not going to ask the seller to pay buyer agent compensation. So now the buyer is really paying you. But what you're going to do is you're going to go show properties. You're going to use an addendum, or once contracts are updated, it'll be in the contract where you are going to ask the seller to pay the compensation. So you don't need to call every agent. So I don't need to call Foster, Jessica, Gina, Not so shy town. I don't have to call you up and say, hey, this is Carrie with Caremark Realty Group. How much is your seller offering to cooperate with? No, just go show the house and then use the addendum and write the offer. Some people are freaking out about that because they want to know. This is why we're here today. And this is why I think companies like EXP took it out of their agreements, because and this is why I'm not mad that compensation is being taken out of the MLS. In our MLS, we never had the ability to search by compensation. Now I can build a report to look at compensation, but I never had the ability to search by compensation. So now, it was, there are some agents that would say, there are some agents that, are like, well, what do you mean I won't know my compensation? Or I want to see what the compensation is so I know what I'm getting paid. No, you want to go show the house because you signed a buyer agency agreement with your buyer, and your buyer is saying what they're willing to pay you, but you're going to still ask the seller to pay the compensation. And in the event the seller says no, don't tell your clients they're not paying. Tell them we'll make necessary adjustments, but my goal is to get the compensation from the seller. I've had some agents tell me, well, Carrie, shouldn't we put it in the closing cost credit? I have a strong opinion about that. No. Talk to a lender. If you put it in the closing cost credit, or you ask for a closing cost credit to pay your compensation, now that could impact if the buyer needed that closing cost credit for their true closing costs. So ask the seller to pay it, and let's go that traditional route of it coming out of the proceeds. Now, could we eventually have to go that route? Maybe. Just ask the seller to pay the compensation. So whatever you write down, what do you go big or go home, then your buyer can negotiate. If you go to facts.realtor, and here I'm going to do this, I'll show it to you. If you go to facts.realtor, and under facts.realtor, I'm opening my screen, I'm going to show it to you. You cannot increase compensation. And I've had agents say, what? No, whatever is on your buyer agency agreement. And this is where you're going to role play with your offices so you get what you're worth, right? So, but you can always go down, but you can't go up. Let me prove it to you. The settlement says that whatever is in your agreement, so scroll down to the FAQs. And I believe this is around number 39. It could change. It used to be 38. 39 says, if the seller or the listing broker offers a bonus or financial incentive in addition to the offer of broker compensation, can the buyer broker accept the extra compensation? They should say no, but it says the buyer broker may not receive compensation for brokerage services from any source that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to in the agreement with the buyer. Your buyer agency agreement. So what does that mean? That means that when you sit down with your buyer and you explain your value and what you get paid, that is when you are going to tell them how you're going to negotiate. Okay, we're in a multiple offer situation. My fee was whatever it is. If when we're talking, if we know you're going to end up in a multiple offer situation, do you need to come to closing with the additional funds? And then it's not financed. It doesn't mean that the seller is going to increase the price. Don't think that. So some of you can't get out of your head. You're like, well, isn't this going to affect appraisals? No. Write the offers based on market value. If you need to go up in price, it's not based on your compensation. It's so that the buyer can win. It has nothing to do with compensation. And if your buyer can't go up and pay the gap in the appraisal, maybe they're in the wrong price point. Today, seller's market. I can prove we're in a seller's market. Yes, tomorrow, a year from now, 2 years from now, stable market, may not be so. The sellers are going to be like, I'll pay it, assuming that doesn't change, right? All right. Number 7. So wait, my number 6 was you do not need to call. You do not need to call your agent. You don't need to call the listing agent every time you want to see a property. Because I'm just going to tell you, if I can tell you, I'm the broker owner of Caremark Realty Group. Again, your standards of practice with your brokerages might be different, but I have already told my agents what I would like them to talk to their sellers about. And I want you to call my office. Call my office. Hey, Carrie, what is the seller offering on this property? If the seller agreed to share, we can share. but I am training my agents to have a conversation with the seller on what we would like to do to avoid having so many phone calls is when you call the office, we would like to be able to say, the seller has given us permission to share with you that they would like you to use the addendum to ask for compensation. Well, is the seller offering compensation? The seller has asked that you use the addendum to ask for compensation. I kind of told you they might be, right? Why are we so stressed out about knowing what you get paid? Well, I want to know before I go. No, you need to go show the property and then talk to your buyers about how they might have to pay compensation. So, number 7, we are in a seller's market and a buyer will want to plan to negotiate their compensation. So that's another video. So the truth is, depending on which market you're in, and I'm in Illinois, I'm also in Florida. I know there's addendums in both places. I've seen the Chicago addendum, I've seen the Main Street addendum, but we have an addendum, which is, so for those of you asking the question, what state are you in? Go to your local associations and ask them for an addendum. It could already be a part of the contract where you are asking the seller to pay compensation. So it's between seller and buyer. The seller is going to pay the buyer's broker's compensation. So I have an addendum to do that for the contract, and I have one that goes with a different contract in the event I'm working in a different market. Like Chicago might have a different contract. So call your local associations and ask them if they have an addendum to negotiate compensation. We even have a document for brokerage to brokerage compensation. I like to ask the seller directly. Again, and by the way, depending on which market you're in, if you are a buyer's agent, you are definitely going to want to make sure you are getting paid after you close. So reach out to the listing agent and say, how would you like me to send over an addendum? Or do you have an addendum that guarantees that I will still get paid at closing? If on the MLS right now, there's an amount you get paid, because once it comes out of the MLS, there is no more agreement to pay. There you go. In Wisconsin, they already have it added. Love it. I think that's Wisconsin. Just put my glasses on. So those are the simple 7 videos. I think you could create some fun videos. Create a video with the buyer, a real buyer, and ask them to ask you a bunch of crazy questions. Like, say, I need you to ask me questions that I might not think of, and then I'll answer them. Create a seller video and ask them to ask you a few crazy questions. Like, have sellers ask you questions, make it fun with one of your actual sellers. Try to, maybe don't go compensation. Create a what if video. What if you want to go this alone? What if? What will that look like? It could look like that you end up having to pay a real estate agent hourly. That's a fun video. I've seen that. So you want to, okay, and so you don't want to pay me a percent. You don't want to pay me a flat rate. Okay, so let me tell you, this is what I'm going to do. This is how much I charge for this. This is how much I charge for this. And again, you can make it fun, but you don't have to say what the compensation is. And then you say, and then you hand it to your pretend client, and they say, "Oh, I think I'll go back with the other rate." So you can make videos fun. You can also create short videos under 10 seconds or less with text. Ask me about how to buy a home without using an agent. 5 ways to sell your home for sale by owner. Ooh. And then talk. And there's someone that went viral with that video. Did you know that as of today, that's a great video. And I'm going to also recommend that all of you have a YouTube channel, because remember when I did the video when I went live the entire month of July on video or social media, I actually said that YouTube was the best channel right now for social media per Pew Research. So I'm going to challenge all of you to take a deep breath. Create some video content. If you don't want to talk like I can talk to myself for hours to all of you and you can't talk back, if that's not you, go create a video of yourself. I'll create one today and I'll post it, and I'll put it on my company page, and I'll share it also to this page so you can see me do it. I'll create a video. Let's see. Which one will I do? I'll do the every time you watch the news. And I'll create it, and I'll collaborate with this channel and my company, so you can go just copy it. Go do your own, go create your own. You could do it today. I'll make that one today. All right. So before we end, do I have any questions? Do I have any questions over on YouTube? I don't see any questions. Thank you for watching on YouTube. If you are listening to the podcast and you have questions, feel free, send me an email. You can send me an email at my company email or my speaking email, info@smartgirlmedia.com. And make sure you follow me, subscribe to my YouTube channel and my podcast, and follow me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.